The Writers Guild of GB is in support of the strikes that are taking place in Hollywood. What concerns do you have that you're hearing about in Hollywood and perhaps you share over here?
It's the erosion of the writer's position in television and film. It's both in terms of wages and access to the set and general respect, which I think the Writers Guild of America are very strong on and have been doing lots of negotiating around. But the other fear that's coming over the hill is obviously artificial intelligence. And that we want some safeguards in place to make sure that we're not replaced by an algorithm into which our existing work is funneled, and then, like a sausage factory, scripts pop out the other end, and our job becomes just giving them a polish, because that's not creation, that's theft. In our opinion. So there's a lot coming over the hill. We want to get in front of it. We want to discuss this with companies, production companies and broadcasters and streamers. But as the WGA are finding, there's a lot of protectionism around it. And it is a hot button issue at the moment.
Now, we're watching AI develop exponentially. Is it something that's already being used within your industry, or is it just something that you are preempting in terms of how it will be used?
So far, our understanding is very little of it is being used. It's still a fairly blunt instrument in its current form. But the more and more of, as I say, our existing work that is fed into those algorithms, into that system, the more of a concern and a threat it becomes. It's being used in graphics, so the visuals on screen, so the recent Secret Invasion, the Marvel series, the opening titles were designed by AI, and that made some people feel very uncomfortable. It's clearly something that interests production companies and streamers. So again, it's preemptive, but we know it's probably a lot closer than it was the last time the WGA sat down to negotiate with the Americans and the last time we had any strong discussion about it.
Now, there are suggestions that AI would perhaps only be used for preliminary scripts. It wouldn't replace writers altogether. What would you say to that?
I would say come into the writer's room and understand why that's so laughable to every writer. The idea that you pop out a basic form of script and then we bring other writers on and we punch up the jokes and we make sure it's tragic or that it's not offensive, because if we're feeding in the canon that we've got at the moment, a lot of it is written by a singular white male voice at the moment. It's a joke as it stands, because the reality of what happens when a writer sits down to write, the creation that goes on, the blind alleys that you have to go down to come back up, I don't think a computer can handle that. I have a vision of a computer fizzing and smoke coming out of it if it got the notes that I sometimes get from producers. So at the moment, as it stands, that doesn't feel realistic. For years, people have tried to boil down what we do as writers into a book, a pamphlet, a simple system, and people have made a lot of money out of it. None of them are successful. None of them replace putting your bum on the seat and your fingers on the keyboard and getting the writing actually done and doing the long, hard thinking. So there's part of me that doesn't feel that it's a risk in that way. I think what will pop out the other end of any AI system will be incredibly run-of-the-mill, incredibly poor, and we'll need the human writers, and eventually someone will be knocking on the door going, please, can you help us with this? But if in the interim people lose work, lose status in their position in the industry, then that obviously is of great concern.
Yeah, just talk to me more about that, because I agree with you. I just can't see how a computer could ever replace the incredible wit, nuance and creativity of the human brain when it comes to film and TV. So in light of that, why do you feel so threatened?
Because the people who do the sums, make the money, look at the spreadsheets are not creatives for the most part. And that's been a good relationship for a long time. Some people make the money and work out how we're going to pay for all of this, and some of us do the creative work. Where the balance seems to have shifted in the last few years is the power lies with the non-creative people within the industry. And if they can find a way to save a penny, not have us annoying creative people around demanding rights and wages and copyright and things like that, then it feels like they will. So actually the threat is not necessarily from the technology. The threat is from people who, with their lack of creativity, don't realise the Pandora's box they could be opening if we go down this road.
We've seen 100 days of strikes now in Hollywood. The last time they strike like this, it was resolved by this point. What's the happy ending here?
That everybody gets around the table and comes to a compromise. And that's exactly what both the WGA and SAG-AFTRA want. They want to sit around the table, but there has been a great deal of resistance from the other side about getting to the table. And unfortunately, there was that very unfortunate quote about hoping that the financial restraints that were caused by the strike would lead to both the WGA and SAG-AFTRA backing down. And that's a really unpleasant way to deal with your colleagues and was very unhelpful. However, it now does look like people are starting to get around the table again. And literally the only way to resolve it is by talking. And so let's get around the table, let's have those conversations, and let's get back to making television and movies because everybody loves them.
Lisa, it's been great to chat to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure.